Hello and welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not miss a future show. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor YouTube channel. If you're checking this out on social, hit those notifications. That way you'll know every time we're going live with the Smart Chiropractor Show, which we do each and every week to talk about the most important topics in and around your practice. It's clinical, it's business, it's marketing, it's mindset, all mixed in, and we have an awesome show lined up for you today. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'll tell you even more why I'm doing so great in just a few minutes, but it's Tuesday. I'm excited. I love doing the Smart Chiropractor Show. Thanks for watching if you're tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you week after week after week after week. We're here to serve you, and that's what we love doing. I'm excited to show up and make it happen.
Well, let's find out why you are so excited by kicking into our Mindset Mentor segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Welcome to the Mindset Mentor segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. As Jason mentioned at the top, he's pumped to deliver your Mindset Mentor segment today. And this is going to be all about a recent, I'm going to say, experience, Jason, that you had that I think it is very, very important for doctors to not only discover and learn about, but also to keep their minds open too, because we know it's not just about the growth that happens in your practice that's important. It's the growth that happens outside and what you can bring to the table each and every day for your patients in your community that might matter more than anything. So without me being so esoteric, I'm going to kick it over to you. Let docs know a little bit about what you and I have chatted extensively about and what your experience was last week.
Well, it's amazing what can change in 7 days. Don't ever underestimate what you can do in a short period of time. So long story short, if you haven't been following or don't know me or you're new to the program, I was recently introduced to, or the timing, I should say, lined up for me to attend someone I've known for quite a few years, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Life University grad, and somebody who I've had the good fortune of connecting with over the years. I've interviewed him in years past. In fact, I went into the archives and found, I think it was 2014, when his book, You Are the Placebo, was released, and I got an opportunity to connect with him and interview him then. We'll probably bring that out of the archives. And two, many of my good friends are his good friends, and we've just known each other. We've spoken on common stages. We've sort of passed as, he's going on, I'm going off, or we've been in the green room or something like that before going on. Anyway, if you haven't heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza, in my opinion, he is sort of, as I always seem to reference, the Roger Bannister of the chiropractic profession. What do I mean by that? Well, I reference Roger Bannister because he is the first person to break what was thought to be an impossible feat, which was the 4-minute mile. But what was interesting about that phenomenon is that once Roger Bannister did it, soon after, lots of people were able to do it. And he's kind of become the symbol of showing people what's possible because they did it first. Well, Dr. Joe, in my opinion, has done what I believe to be a first for chiropractors. I'm going to get into that in just a few minutes. I'll first lay out a little bit more about my experience, and then I'll lead into, I'll say, the takeaway for the chiropractic profession. I tend to want to just get into that. My personal details don't really matter to most of you, but I'll just give you a little bit of, reference for why I went, because I did get quite a few people who asked, why are you going? Should I go too? What'd you get out of it? So starting on a personal level, I guess I would pretty much summarize it by saying that, the past 2 years have been challenging. For me personally, I don't need to state the obvious, obviously, but it's been a lot of years of accumulated frustration, of looking at the world and how insane it is on both sides. I don't even have a side. I think they're all insane. And that's part of the problem. And I'll just sort of say between, divorce 10 years ago and single parenting and relationships and business and life and all the things that go on in the context of what we just went through over the last 2 years, left me a different person than I was 10 and 15 years ago, a more frustrated. I dare say more depressed. I was just, really looking at what's going on in the world, especially in the healthcare realm, which is beyond insane for anybody who's paying attention. And it's really hard to find any joy, any optimism, any hope in a world that currently is just indescribably beyond what I think most of us would imagine. Now, there's been terrible times in the past. This is, another one of them. And I'll just sort of summarize it by saying it got me. It got to me. In simple terms, I lost my smile. I was pretty much frustrated with most people, most of the time, for most reasons. And that left me not a happy boy, as I like to think of myself as wanting to be. And so I figured I can either continue on that course, which was not a good one, or I could step out of my life and work on figuring out why. Why am I feeling this way? And more importantly, what do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel, which is hopeful and inspired and creative and like I'm making a difference, making a contribution in a positive way, as opposed to just being like most people, which is, this is an effing mess. I mean, there's just very difficult to find any hope and optimism in a world that is doing what it's doing right now. So the experience itself, 7 days of literally being in a ballroom, that's about it, a massive ballroom with roughly 1,500 other people. Thankfully, I was anonymous. Nobody I knew, nobody really knew me. There was a NBA star that was there. There was another reality TV celebrity that was there. And otherwise, it was 1,500 people from 40 different countries of all sizes, all shapes, all colors, all ages that came together, that spent not only a lot of money for the event, but even more money traveling and staying, at the event, at the hotel, and all that goes along with it. I say that only because I will share later on what I was so impressed with when I say Dr. Joe is the Roger Bannister. He has, as a chiropractor, but also defining himself as a neuroscientist, somebody who is an expert in, think of these other titles. So neuroscience, epigenetics, quantum physics, psychoneuroimmunology, many of the same sciences many chiropractors I know actually study. Some chiropractors I know are very fluent and understanding in quantum physics and the concept of energy and its relationship with matter. Most chiropractors, I would like to think, are experts in neuroscience, right? What we do is about neurology and biology and the science of how our body functions. Very much related to not just our autonomic nervous system, but our brain. And what Joe has done is masterful as it relates to communicating to people around the world, most who are not in some sort of physical low back musculoskeletal pain. Most are people who are open to the world of possibilities. And what Joe has done a masterful job at is really making that connection to helping people learn more about themselves and help guiding people to go from where they are, whether that's a health condition, whether that's frustration, whether it's mental, physical issues, restraints, constraints, etc., and teaching them how their mind and body works and what they can do, what practices they can implement, we can implement, in order to be more aligned with the science of today. And so that'll sort of segue me into what that all means. So just to give you a little insight as to what topics he's actually talking about. Quantum physics. So quantum physics, Einstein coined the term unified field theory, UFT, unified field theory. The idea that there is an energy, a unified field, a force, as they would call it in Star Wars, a resonant vibration that is what animates all living things. It's what animates the universe. Now, we know this from, I'll say, quantum physics. When you look under the quantum microscope, the microscope that looks at the atom and is strong enough to look at subatomic particles, basically what you find, I'm oversimplifying and quickly summarizing, that all matter is made up of atoms. All physical things are made up of atoms. And all atoms are made up of mostly space. And it's a massively difficult concept to wrap your brain around, that all physical things are made up of space. But think of a tornado. A tornado is simply energy. The only reason you see a tornado is because within the energy, it picks up other things, particles, dirt, cars, houses, material, whatever it may be. You don't see the energy, you see the impact that energy has on the physical things around it. But at its source, what we're talking about is that physical things are made up of energy. And I always remember from science class, literally in high school and, even earlier, there was a chart that they had showed really early on that showed the visual spectrum, that red to violet rainbow of colors that is what the human senses eyes could see and visualize. But what was fascinating about that chart, and I reference it because that's what this whole idea is about, was that it was a very small percentage of what we conceive relative to the frequencies we can measure. So for example, right here in this room, there are Wi-Fi signals going on right now. That's why I'm wirelessly connected, but I don't see them anywhere, but they're there. And we know they're there because we're connected. In days past, when televisions had, antennas, rabbit ear type antennas, and not cable, then the job of the television was to receive the broadcast waves and then transduce that energy into something physical that we can see. Think of a radio. There's radio waves everywhere going on. And if I had a portable radio, then I could turn it on, receive those signals, and transduce those signals into something we could hear. Now, here's where it gets interesting, if that wasn't interesting enough. Depending on what channel you're on, television-wise, or channel station you're on, radio-wise, depending on what you're dialed into, what frequency you're dialed into, will have everything to do with what you see, what you watch, what you listen to. And Joe did a masterful, unlike I've ever seen before, job explaining how the pineal gland specifically in the brain is the transducer of our bodies, of our mind and our body and its connection, and went on to show and explain that we work in the exact same way, that what we see, what we hear, what we're tuned into has everything to do with our ability to turn the dial, to even know that there is a dial, to even understand the concept that we are all connected. And that's not a Joe Dispenza idea. That is an idea that's been around since the beginning of man and time, for the most part, in some way, that there is a connection in nature and we are part of nature. And there are vibrations that keep this whole show working the way it does in a very organized, coordinated manner. The earth rotates at a certain speed. If it changed, it would change all polarity, all gravity, all oceans. It would be a disaster. And yet, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, millennial after millennial, we're still here because of that organizational structure. And there is consistency in all of this. Going to the simplest form for us to appreciate: an egg and a sperm come together and create new life. First system to be developed, spinal cord. You know all of this, and that's exactly my point. That thousands of people from around the world are spending thousands of dollars and investing an entire week of their time and going multiple times to learn more about what many of you should be saying is obvious. Like, I know that. That's what I studied as a chiropractor. That's anatomy, that's physiology, that's neuroscience. We are already experts in these categories. And here I see many chiropractors struggling to get more new patients, while Dr. Joe, my Roger Bannister, is showing that he can, around the world, attract thousands of people to pay thousands of dollars to take time out of their lives to learn more about this idea and to learn about the practice of how to make these ideas part of their daily lifestyle. The way I see it, although Dr. Joe doesn't adjust anybody physically the same way, his message of being connected to a unified field, in chiropractic, we called it universal intelligence, being connected, understanding the science of quantum physics. Epigenetics is the concept of our minds being able to influence our physiology. We all know this. Nobody argues the idea that you can think yourself sick, right? Nobody argues that stress-related conditions, because of how we think, are really one of, if not the number one cause of most lifestyle-related diseases these days. They are stress-related, whether that causes you to eat more, whether that increases your hormone levels, whether it helps you not sleep any longer. All of this combination of stress-related issues can make you sick. And I don't know anybody who denies that idea. But what's fascinating to me is that we're not all looking at that phenomenon from the opposite perspective, which is, if you can think yourself sick, doesn't that mean you can think yourself healthy, or at least healthier? And the answer has to be, of course. It doesn't just work one way, it works both ways. And that's where it gets very interesting. And that's where I think we as the chiropractic profession are missing a massive opportunity to teach people about these principles and ideas, especially now. If I got caught up in all of this craziness, and I consider myself a chronic optimist, I have resources, I have tools, I have so many blessings in my life, and I'm still walking around frustrated. If I got caught up in it, lots of people are caught up in it. And I think that, again, I'm sharing the obvious. But what may not be so obvious is the opportunity we as a collective profession have, maybe even the opportunity you have as an individual chiropractor, to start teaching these ideas to people who are looking for hope, who are looking for direction, who are looking to remember how to make sense of what has become nonsense, to learn how to build routines into their daily life and lifestyle in today's new world, work from home, internet-based, all the different changes that are different today than it's been for years, if not decades, and so on. We're living in a new world, a new time, and people are looking for new information. And I believe chiropractors have an opportunity to really step into that role, step into that leadership, and start teaching people about them. And I'll sort of close by saying that's sort of my issue with what's going on in the profession right now. And I'll say, I see it that way because Jeff and I have been working on lots of different projects to help more chiropractors help more people. For more chiropractors to be able to have the practice you want to have, not the business you need to have. And a lot of things I think have gone off base over the years because many, if not most, chiropractors in the chiropractic profession are living in some form of survival, doing what you got to do to pay the bills, to keep the practice open, to keep the cash flow coming in so you can live a reasonable lifestyle. And many chiropractors, in my opinion, from my observation and experience, have sort of let that business side of things take over to the point that many are also very frustrated. Many have sort of stopped doing what they dreamed of doing when you started to become a chiropractor, when you thought it was a good idea to go to chiropractic school, take 4 years of your life, go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt so that you can start from scratch years from now and open up your practice to be of service to other people. And I'd like to think it was for more than just making a decent living, but it was to make an impact with who you are and what you know. And that's what Joe did. And it was brilliant. And if he can teach these ideas and have people spend thousands of dollars, weeks out of their lives, come over and over and over again, which many people did, that sort of gives me that 4-minute mile record breaking experience to say, well, maybe you can teach, maybe we can all be teaching people more about the miracles that they are. We can remind people about how amazing their brain, their spinal cord, their autonomic nervous system, their ability to move, their daily habits, but the magic of their life is because of their ability to be more connected to that energy or less connected to that energy. And as far as I'm concerned, that has a lot to do with what I understand chiropractic to be all about. So, Jeff, I don't know if there's anything, I know I shared more with you, if there's any highlights that I might not have talked about, but people said, should I go? My answer is, if you're looking to make a transformation, if you're looking to learn sort of a fresh way of looking at the crazy world we're in, if you are open to redefining how you look at your world, then yes, you should absolutely go. And it was transformative. And I've been to a lot of different events over the decades, Tony Robbins events, all kinds of events. So I'm very familiar with personal transformation and these types of events. What Joe did as a human was amazing. His energy from sometimes 3 and 4 in the morning till 6, 7 at night, and then some, just on stage performing all the time, was beyond impressive as an individual. What he did as a chiropractor was just fantastic. And I hope more chiropractors both experience what he is putting out there so they can have an experience like I did, which is to find my smile again, to be able to push aside many of the things that were clouding up my judgment and depressing me, suppressing my positive attitude, and really wipe the slate clean. I found myself saying, I don't feel brainwashed, I feel brain cleansed. And I just have a fresh perspective, which is very difficult. I mean, I read the books, many of you do. Intellectually, it's all one thing, but the experience was transformative, and it goes beyond intellectual words and language and learning from your brain. The experience of meditation at the times that we do it was truly transformative. So far, I've been doing it daily. My plan is to make it a daily habit. So far, so good. That's my intention. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'm happy to continue this conversation as time goes on. If you've got specific questions, go ahead and leave them down below. If you're curious to learn more, if you want to learn more about the science that Joe's talking about, we can talk about those things. Give us some feedback as to what you think, whether you're curious to go or not, whether you'd like to learn more about quantum physics, epigenetics, neurosciences, and so on. Be curious to make sure we're giving you all that you're asking for. Jeff, thanks for holding down the fort while I was in La La Land meditating. I think it was well worth it, hopefully for all of us and hopefully for all of you as time goes on. My dedication moving forward is to double, triple, quadruple my efforts, our efforts into helping more of you help more people. And we got a lot of exciting things coming in the near future to express all of that. I'll leave with one comment I found just fascinating. Jeff, I think I showed you the video of many people have seen those birds. They're called starlings. And what they do is they're in a murmur like a heart murmur, meaning that they work together in a rhythm, in an energy, in a vibrational pattern that's impossible to understand because there's thousands of them that work as one organism. Schools of fish do the same thing. Instead of all being individual fish, they get together in these schools of fish and then they form these bigger, what appear to be organisms so they can be more intimidating to sharks and other predators. That nature just knows stuff. But this idea of coherence and working together as a group and working together as a team is not a unique phenomenon. It is a natural phenomenon that occurs in lots of places. And I'll just sort of close that it would be really fascinating to see and watch more chiropractors work in coherence with each other, work in vibration with each other, instead of the static fighting and infighting that has held us back for decades. And if there was one dream that I sort of got from this event on a professional level, and when I say professional, my life, my adult life has been trying to help more chiropractors, help more people by sharing what I know to be the most elegant philosophy of life, this idea of energy and connection and the brain, mind, body connection, and our ability to express more of it by staying clear and connected, in our case, through the done by hands physical adjustment. But the concept applies everywhere. And if more of us can work in this coherent vibratory type pattern, then like a laser, that focus of light energy can be very, very powerful when it's concentrated and it works together, as opposed to diffuse and random. And if we can put our efforts together as a profession, not with one word, but with one energy towards being of service to more people, and an energy of being enthusiastically positive to shine the light that needs to be shined in a really dark time, then I am once again re-inspired, re-engaged, recommitted, and refocused, and doing what inspired me to become a chiropractor in the first place. And now at my age, I'm re-inspired once again, and I'm excited for the future, for us, for me, for us, for the Smart Chiropractor, for all of you watching. If you want to join forces and start vibrating with us and start sharing your message and teaching like Joe teaches. I'm not saying teach what Joe teaches, although that might be a good idea for some of you, but teaching how Joe teaches, I think, is really a fascinating thing we can all take away and learn and benefit from. And it was the best week I've had in a very long time, and I'm very grateful for it. And as far as I'm concerned, the best is yet to come.
Very well said, Jason. I'm going to encourage everybody out there, check out a flight of starlings, or Murations, I guess as they're called. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think this has been a fantastic reminder as well for everybody listening and watching. It is important to take time to recharge your batteries, to get inspired, to put yourself in a new environment, all of those things that we know and probably talk about in our practice, yet might take a backseat in our personal lives. So get out there, stretch your comfort zone, put something on your calendar the rest of this year, and ask any questions about Jason's experience as well. I know he'll be happy to share. That has been a fantastic Mindset Mentor segment to kick off today's Smart Chiropractor show. Let's head over to our clinical conversations. Hello and welcome to Clinical Conversations on today's Smart Chiropractor show. We've been revisiting some of the presentations from Axis 2021. That was our clinical online event. And yes, we're going to keep encouraging you. Stay tuned for details around Axis 2022 coming up very, very shortly. But today we're going to play a brief presentation, part of what Dr. Kevin Christie presented, which is treating and working with rotational athletes. We presented a little bit a few weeks ago around the concepts of how you use this when you reach out in your community. Today, we wanted to share a 10-minute clip where he dives into some of the specific exercise protocols, movement assessments, and more that he utilizes in his personal practice in South Florida when treating rotational athletes. So let's take a look at Axis 2021, Treating Rotational Athletes with Dr. Kevin Christie.
Today, I'm going to be talking about golf and the shoulder and trunk connection. We're going to talk about a lot of different things that relate from all the way to the hips to the shoulders. I understand that the foot, ankle, and the knee and the elbow and all that stuff plays a part of it. To be concise, we're going to dive into those areas. This particular video is going to be broken down into a few different sections. We're going to talk through this a bit, and then we're going to go into some functional testing that you can do in your office. Then we're going to go into some swing faults that you could look at on video to really try to help make that connection between the swing mechanics and the injury and your treatment plan. And then we'll wrap it up with some more information. Right out of the gates, I want you to understand that this is going to be a lot of TPI stuff, but at the same time, there's going to be other aspects of it. And being a MPI doc really gives you a leg up compared to other therapists that are doing the TPI screen. Level 1 TPI is a lot of different types of fitness people, golfers, doctors, but having your skill set is going to be able to really make a difference for golfers in your community. And the good thing is no matter where you live, golf is probably being played. It might be seasonal. Down here it's year round, but it might be seasonal, and it's a really good target audience for you. And I'll talk a little bit towards the end on how you can kind of network in that and grow your practice for golfers as well. But the majority of this is going to actually be clinically related. And I look back at one of the questions that was asked at a TPI level 2. So I'm TPI certified through level 3, and even back in the day, they had a golf biomechanics class, which I really enjoyed, and that was a lot of 3D analysis. But a question was posed to Dr. Greg Rose about how come in TPI there's no treatment methods taught. And it was a good answer that he gave. Essentially, he can't expect to be able to teach chiropractors how to do manipulation, how physical therapists to do this, that, and the other thing. So they try to teach you how to assess, understand golf injuries, the video aspect of it, and then you apply your treatment skill set to that. And that's going to be the same thing for this video as well. You're going to have a different skill set than maybe your colleague, but if you can understand how to assess golf injuries, you can apply your manual skill set and your treatment to that. So I'm not going to dive into a lot of that. I will make reference to where some good motion palpation and manipulation will be beneficial and give you a leg up to other folks. But we're going to really just go into screenings, assessments, and some correctives, okay? And one of the things I want to touch on that gets a little bit confusing, but is it's very instrumental in understanding how the body works during golf, and that is the 3D kinematics, or the kinematics of the golf swing that TPI teaches. And it's really understanding the pelvis, torso, shoulder, and arm, okay? So in that, you have to understand that the pelvis needs to start the golf swing, and then the torso follows, then the shoulder, and the arm. And so some of the questions I'll ask a golfer when they're a patient of mine is things like their handicap, because you're not going to be able to get their 3D analysis most likely, unless you're working with some really high-level golfers. It's really difficult to get that. Now, I was fortunate enough for a few years to be working with Florida International University, and I had the whole setup. I was on the research, so I've done a lot in this regard for the 3D analysis. But I just want you to know that this is going to be kind of the blueprint of someone's swing. It doesn't matter what their backswing looks like. It doesn't matter what they look like. If they have a really good 3D kinematics of the swing, they're going to have really good power development, and they're going to prevent injury. Because what ends up happening, and I'm going to show some of the swing faults there, is if you get into this golf swing here, you'll see a lot of golfers from here will start to swing with the upper body, and that's going to cause a lot of shoulder issues. And you're going to deal with that tug-of-war battle all the time between you treating them and them going onto the golf course and not getting the results that you want. They're going to re-injure themselves. So really what you want is from here, you want the pelvis to start to swing, then the torso is going to come through, and then the arms come through last. And so when you watch a really good golfer, that pelvis is already rotated quite a bit. And it's kind of that whip analogy you'll hear is the energy is going to transfer from the lower body out to the club and really generate a lot of good power without putting stress. So the arms and the shoulders really should just follow. And so understand that kinematic sequence is going to be important in the golfer. And so many mid-handicap or high-handicap golfers, they're out of sequence somewhere, right? They may start it with the torso, and then the pelvis goes, and then the shoulders. They may start it with the arms. That's very common in high handicaptors. So I like to ask those questions of the golfer and just say, okay, what's your handicap? How often are you playing golf? Do you have a teaching professional you're working with, which is going to be part of what I talk about later on, connecting with golf pros as well. But you want to start understanding where this golfer's probably talent level is. And then if they have video of your swing, with technology now is great. You can get that video. We use Spark Motion to assess when we need to, but there's a lot of different things out there where you can assess the video. And I'll go over some key things to look for when it comes to the trunk and the shoulder when we go through them, okay? The thing that I really find exciting about working with golfers is a lot of times you're trying to put this puzzle piece together. And so you might have a golfer with shoulder pain or shoulder injury, but it could be because of the low back or the pelvis. Or vice versa. You could have a golfer that's got a lumbopelvic issue and pain, and that's what they're coming to you for, but it really could be a shoulder issue. So we're going to figure out how that works and show you some things to really work through that in today's video. So just to kind of summarize what we're going to go through, we're going to show you how to assess the pelvic mechanics. You can obviously add some motion palpation to that and adjustment, and then we're going to work our way up from probably the hip joints all the way up through the shoulder into the elbow a little bit. And then understand, yes, foot and ankle and all the other parts of the body play a role in it. But for brevity, we're going to handle those areas and try to give you an understanding of how the body's working in golf. And then you can apply your other assessments and treatments to that golfer. Typically in my office, I will run through a SFMA to get a general screen going. But if it's a golfer, I'm going to then dive into some golf-specific testing. Before I do that, I will run through evaluation of the hip joint, and I'll do other things too, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to check the internal and external rotation of the hip joint. I don't need to show you that. You know how to do it. But with golf, you really want to make sure you get about 40-45 degrees of hip internal rotation and at least 55-60 degrees of hip external rotation. It's going to be really important for the golf swing, because if they can't internally rotate that right hip on a right-handed golfer, it's going to set up for a whole lot of other issues. Now, if you think there's significant arthritis and degeneration in there, that's something I'll let you handle clinically, but we want to have good range of motion of the hip joints. Without that, it's going to be really difficult for the low back, and then that's going to work its way up to the shoulder. For here, we're going to try to figure out the pelvic mechanics. I mentioned that kinematic sequence, that you really need that pelvis to function. And what's interesting about that, they've done a lot of analysis of it, and the pelvis is going to do quite a few things during the swing. So if this golfer is facing that way and it's a right-handed golfer, and this is their pelvis, they're going to be set up in a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. But as they as they go into their backswing like that, they're actually going to go into even more of an anterior pelvic tilt. So there's going to be some tilting anterior of the pelvis. But then as that pelvis starts to rotate towards the target, there's going to be an ab crunch in a sense, and it's going to posterior pelvic tilt as it's rotating there. And so if that golfer can't do that smoothly, it's going to chew up the low back and cause all kinds of other issues from a performance standpoint as well. So these three tests that we're going to go through right now are going to help us see how fluid that is, and it's also going to allow us to see how their X factor stretch is. And so I was fortunate enough years ago to do a little bit of work with Jim McLean down in South Florida. He's located down here, and my office was down there. And he came up with that term, the X factor. And then subsequently, other people called it the X factor stretch. The X factor is just the difference between the rotation of the pelvis and the torso. And so they really want to get about 45 degrees of the pelvis and 90 of the shoulder, and so that difference would be 45 degrees, right? 90 minus 45.
Great presentation from Dr. Kevin Christie at Axis 2021. We know a lot of people viewing, they geek out on the clinical stuff, so we're excited to bring Axis 2022 back this summer. Keep your eyes peeled for it. It's going to be awesome. And 2021 was really fantastic. So if this is the first you are hearing about it, please check out some previous episodes of this show. We've been highlighting Axis 2021 presentations since the beginning of this year, getting you not only pumped up for 2022, but instilling that knowledge from the experts that we were able to highlight this past year. Jason, takeaways from Kevin or on Axis?
What a great event. Axis, of course, is C2, the second cervical, and C2 is clinical conversations, just to make sure everybody's getting the connections there. Kevin's terrific. And, so is, as he references, Greg Rose and the ability to work with people on the things that are important to them. And that's one of the things I just love about what we can collectively do as chiropractors is, celebrate our diversity, celebrate the fact that we're not all the same thing, saying the same thing to everyone, doing the same thing in our practices, but we have a spectrum of ways we can serve a spectrum of different people. And if you love sports and you love working with athletes, and if you love specific sports like golf, this is a really great way to be able to both find your joy and passion in what you're doing and connect with other people that are probably also joyful and passionate. Golfers oftentimes are very frustrated, but find and share and maybe even limit your frustrations because you're able to improve the mechanics of the body, maybe even the mind if you start going there as well, and helping people live the life that they want to. Kevin's a great dude. The event is terrific. Keep your eyes open for Axis 2022 coming up. Great choice, Jeff.
Well said. And if you know Kevin, shoot him a message. Let him know you saw him on the Smart Chiropractor show. We're going to head over to Research That Matters on today's show. Hey docs, welcome to Research That Matters on today's Smart Chiropractor show. If you have been following along, you know we talk about a strategy of teach and invite consistently. We think about that with an annual calendar, monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. It is May 2022, which means we are discussing our monthly campaign called Posture, the Science of Body Positioning. All month long, all of May, our Smart Chiropractor docs are putting out fantastic content, automated. They're doing videos, they're sending emails, we're posting, there's blogs going up, lead magnets, you name it. We're helping them lead the conversation in and around posture in their communities. Now, our weekly topic for this specific week is improving your posture to keep your spine healthy. I have a couple things I just want to break down on this as we talk about this topic. Posture tends to be, as time goes on, one of these almost divisive things within our profession. There are some techniques and docs that are wholly focused upon it, and there are those that don't want anything to do with it. And I'm going to encourage you to think about it as a helpful tool for how you approach your clinical practice. You do not need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, to understand that the balance between, as I like to say, strength and flexibility is critically important. We know that biomechanics change over time, not only due to injury, not only due to gravity, but due to the natural effects of living life as a biped, being upright, moving around. These wonderful things that we're able to do have some amount of trade-off. What is that trade-off? Well, we know that the pinpoint of motion, they call it the instantaneous axis of rotation, migrates posteriorly as people age, and that loads the facet joints. So what do you want to do to mitigate that stress, to mitigate that load? Well, you want to have as best of segmental biomechanics as humanly possible. There's no question about that. You certainly also want to be in tune with what's going on globally. So as we saw in our last segment, and as we've had many guests discuss, the proliferation of movement assessments over the last 10 years has been a fantastic tool to be able to understand what's going on dynamically as somebody goes through a movement pattern, whether you're assessing a squat or whether you're going through flexion extension, whatever it might be. You know which to choose and what's appropriate for the patient. And all of those dynamic movement assessments give you a clue into what's going on statically. So just like there's a balance between strength and flexibility, there's also an important balance between static and dynamic motion and ultimately posture. And there's no question that over time, again, due to gravity, injuries, things happen over time, that when there is abject imbalance between strength and flexibility, when there's abject imbalance of proper segmental motion, that's going to have deteriorating effects. And us as chiropractors of all should be highly in tune with coaching, educating, and taking care of our patients in a way that mitigates those stresses as much as possible. There might never be a way to eliminate them, and we also know they're dynamic. There's a lot with what we put in our body, food-wise, nutritionally, that affects our physiology and ultimately our neuromusculoskeletal system. It's also how we move. And of course, how we think plays a huge role in what we eat and how we move. So all of these things, when we talk about posture, I think sometimes it can be siloed in many docs' minds to thinking that it's all about this one static image and you either love it or you loathe it. But I'm going to encourage every doc out there to consider posture as something that's dynamic, consider it to be something that's a foundational item to who you are and what you do. And while today was maybe more of a doctor-focused presentation, more so than, or a little bit of a monologue here rather than patient-centric, you can be ensured that if this is a conversation you want to lead, and I think you should be, in your community, Smart Chiropractor is going to present and provide for you all of the patient-focused communication that you need to open people's minds, to make an impact, and to help you, as I like to say, proactively answer the questions people in your community have about their health. And whether you like it or whether you don't like it, a lot of people have questions about their posture. Jason?
I think you said it beautifully, and just to sort of take the baton and continue, with what you started. Maybe it is divisive from a clinical standpoint within the profession. I don't think it has to be, but it is. But it's not divisive as it relates to a conversation in the general public, real people with real questions and real issues. I don't know that many people that sort of go, I don't believe in posture, or that's not important. Most of us the cliche and the joke is, our moms always told us to sit up straight and, make sure we had good posture. So it is a common conversation that in today's digital age, most people are actually concerned about. And they're concerned about it only from a small percentage of what they should be concerned about it for. Because for the most part, generally speaking, people in the public think posture is just an aesthetic issue. You're going to look like you're hunched over, like the hunchback. Some go so far as to say and understand, I went to a seminar and I know if you're hunched over, you won't be as positive in your attitude and emotion than somebody who stands up tall. In fact, ironically, I'll just sort of throw this in there for those that may watch podcasts or can live in the online world. There's a really popular guy who's been out there now, a clinical psychologist out of Canada named Jordan Peterson. And he's been going viral for years now. He's been on every major podcaster's show and he's all over causing a ruckus. He wrote a book called The 12 Habits of Life, I believe it's called, as a clinical psychologist, a guru about life and so on. And what was interesting to me was that when he laid out his 12 rules for life, the first, not the 12th, not the 10th, not the 9th, not the 7th, but the first rule of the 12 rules of life was stand up tall and pay attention to your posture. And it has everything to do with our body's understanding, right? Our physiology of being hunched over versus tall. It has everything to do with how people perceive us. Somebody who's like this versus somebody who's like this. What he doesn't get into is what we should be getting into, which is the neurological benefits of good posture and the neurological damage or negative effects of poor posture. And from a neurological neuroscience perspective, there's lots of ways you can go about explaining that. The day-to-day mindfulness of paying attention to not only how you're sitting, but in many cases, how you're looking at whatever screen you're on all day, almost every day, is a really critical thing for people to know and learn and pay attention to. And you have the opportunity to be their leader in that conversation of something that affects pretty much everyone all day, every day, whether it's not a device, but it's a baby and a mom maybe having a newborn. They have to watch their posture, whether they're hunching over, how they're holding, what they're looking down, looking up. Everybody's got to figure out, as this week's topic and this month's campaign talks about, the science of body positioning and how to improve your posture to keep your spine healthy. You could extrapolate that out to say how to keep your brain functioning at its optimal level, how to keep your nerve system functioning at a higher level. We know the relationship of posture and function. Most people don't understand how important it is to make sure they're paying attention to their posture. And this is a great, great, great topic. Again, I'll just close by saying, if you're already a client, if you're part of the Smart Chiropractor, there are those of you that just want to set it and forget it, and you have and you can. This is what's going out to your people. For those of you who are our influencers, who are content creators, who go, thank you very much for setting the stage and getting all these topics out there together. I'll take it from here. Take it from here. Now's the time you can really start exploring and going deep. Share testimonials of people before and after posture. If you didn't do that before, start doing that now for next year. Think about different ways that you can make these topics real. Your experience, your testimonials, your practice, your personal understanding or feelings, and maybe even technique. If you are one of those, if you use one of those techniques that are posture related and posture minded, then this is a time to enhance the value of your approach to care and why posture is so important, not to you, but to them. That's the key point here. We'll keep teaching you how to teach others in a very effective way. It's all about teaching and inviting on a consistent basis. Great topic, super important, affects everybody, everywhere, all the time. There's even sleep posture. So take it from there. There's lots of topics you can talk about. If you've got a topic that you have talked about that isn't in this, leave it down below or leave it in our private Facebook group. That's very much what we do in our private Facebook group, is we share these ideas with each other. Again, we know there's two extremes to our clients. Those of you that just want this stuff to go out because you know you're not going to do it yourself. It's out. It's great. If you aren't doing that yet, you can. Those of you that are figuring out, I'll do it, just tell me what to do. Let us do the basics. Let us set the stage. Think of yourself as a rock star. We'll get the stage together. We'll get the background music together. We'll get the dancers together. We'll get the merchandise and t-shirts together. You get to get up there and be the rock star and performer that you are, to share what you want to share most about the topics that we put up and create for you. So great topic. Hopefully you're going for it. If you've done something with this, share it with us. If you want a private message Jeff or myself and say, hey, this is something I put out, you're a little shy, probably like myself, we still want to know. We want to know what you're doing so we can feature you in our member highlights section coming up next.
That is absolutely correct, Jason. And if you would love to learn about how we can help you get out there, visit thesmartchiropractor.com. This section is brought to you each and every week by The Smart Chiropractor, where we showcase how you can teach and invite your way to more new patients, better retention, more reactivations, all through organic free channels, all through putting out great content, and by answering these super important questions that people in your community are asking. The only question is, who are they going to find the answer from? We believe it should be you. Head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. And as Jason mentioned, let's take a look at a member highlight on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Member highlights on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. We're going to go around the globe. Smart Chiropractor, we are fortunate to work with docs everywhere where there is chiropractic at this point, worldwide. We have docs over in Asia, in Hong Kong, in India, in England, and we're going about as far on the map from where I am sitting in Tampa, Florida right now. We're going to go all the way over to Australia, and we're going to take a look at Dr. Balraj of Backspace Chiropractic. I'm going to share my screen right here. And this is Backspace Chiropractic's website. Great looking website. And Balraj is doing an awesome job, not only utilizing our content across his social channels, but as you can see here, he is utilizing the blogs that we give him each and every week and placing them up on his website. Now, what does this do? It does a couple things that are critically important. Number one is makes his website look awesome. These are great pieces of content. As people come over to his website, want to learn about who he is and what he does, these are fantastic, fantastic ways to connect with more people who are visiting your website. And it doesn't look like tumbleweeds. It looks like a doc who is active, who's engaged, and who wants to be the teacher and leader in his community. That is all great stuff. Now, what else does it do? What are the side effects of this? The side effects are it's great to help him rank higher in Google. So when he gets these pieces up onto his website, it not only tracks with Google that he's updating his website. They like websites that are updated, meaning the Google algorithm. It also tracks for keywords. So while we don't write BuzzFeed and clickbait headlines with the Smart Chiropractor, we are very, very cognizant of writing high impact titles and subject lines that enable you to touch upon the keywords. And again, as we said in last segment, proactively answer the questions people in your community have about their health. So as I scroll down, he's doing a beautiful job. As you can see, he's utilizing the images that we provide for him. When you place the keyword in the alt tag there, a little technical, but we go through and can coach you and train you on all that. That helps Google understand more of what you're putting up. And the topics here, I just think about this. If I am a patient, a prospective patient, somebody who wants to live a healthier, better life in his community, and I come across his website, I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to be more likely than not to give him a call. And that is because he is somebody who showcases that he's actively engaged. He's somebody that is clearly helping me live a better life by the content he puts out and produces. And I can say with the drivetrain for all of that, the powertrain for all of that is the Smart Chiropractor for Balraj. So Balraj, awesome job getting out there, taking the content we provide for you. I know you got all the automations rocking, but going that one step farther, taking these SEO keyword focused blogs, getting them up on your website consistently so more people can learn from you in your community is a great way to get best results with the Smart Chiropractor. What do you think, Jason?
I think it's great. You say it over and over and over again. I repeat what you say over and over again. Results follow action, and taking action is what it's all about. I'll just sort of say, especially in Australia, but this applies everywhere. You've got to ask yourself, how do you want to be perceived in your community? Most of the profession seems to have gone down this road of deep discount advertising because, well, I need new patients. And so you put in the emergency measures to get some activity as quickly as you possibly can. And I'm not saying there's not some good positive side effects to that. What I am saying is that think about how you want to be perceived in your community. The Mayo Clinic, pick whatever prestigious hospital maybe in your area and so on. Sure, they put messages out on a regular basis, but they're typically not discount coupons, discount fees. They're not the type of messages that are often perceived as, why are they offering these discounts? Do they really need that many new patients? If they were really good, would they really need to offer these types of discounts? And that's how people think. Most people, when it comes to healthcare, I'm not talking about commodities, like I got the cheapest place to buy the same tires I can buy anywhere. We're talking about professional services, in this case, healthcare professional services. And there's an interesting psychology to healthcare professional services that people brag about their doctors. Most people say, I got the best doctor. And how do they know that they're the best doctor? Because you can't get in to see them is how they know that they're the best doctor. It's a crazy phenomenon, but when you teach and invite, as we'll say, on a consistent basis, then you are perceived as an expert, not a business desperate for more new clients. And that's a perception you want to think about consciously as to how you're perceived in the community. Maybe think about how you perceive others who do similar things. Would the best lawyer in town be doing deep discounts? Would the best accountant in town, the best fill in the blank, life coach, whatever it may be? When it comes to professional services, human people offering expertise and time, the same type of I want a good deal doesn't apply. Most people are not looking for the cheapest option. They're looking for the best option that they can find and afford. And when it comes to being a professional, your job is to profess your expert specialized knowledge. That's what we're helping you do here. Balraj did a great job. Great topic, taking action, and understanding, exactly what Jeff is talking about, which is how do I insert my unique voice while simultaneously being smart, understanding how do you use technology to your advantage, search engine optimization, not spending all your time trying to create your own content from scratch and all the really difficult work it takes to do the research, make it look good, make sure it's grammatically accurate, correct, and consistently keep on putting stuff out there. It is far easier to take our work and make it yours and do what many chiropractors around the world are doing the easy way. Teach and invite consistently using the titles, the graphics, the articles, the emails, social posts, all the things we literally spend tens of thousands of dollars per month with the world's foremost experts creating for you. So take it, run with it. That's how it works. Balraj did a great job, and we love highlighting you. So if you're doing something great like other chiropractors should see, especially if you're using the Smart Chiropractor, but even if you're not, we want to highlight you. Make sure you reach out to us, whether it's private message or you want to leave something down below in a non-spammy kind of way, but in a want to share something that we've done that you thought was interesting, that you thought was effective, that maybe you got some engagement on. That's what we are all about, is sharing the wealth, sharing the knowledge, sharing what lots of chiropractors should be doing to teach and invite their community consistently so that they can start attracting people that want to be their for the right reason. So Jeff, great choice. Australia's been through some tough stuff. Hopefully we will continue to be able to provide them. I know advertising is one of the things that's really difficult in Australia. You got to really make sure you're doing the right thing, and I'll say sort of not being too outrageous. So teach people the science, share with them the research that matters, do the right thing.
That's 100% correct. Australian advertising, you can help some things, sometimes, maybe. And that might be pushing it, but that's why it is so important to have those science sources as we do within every single blog post. It helps keep you compliant, makes you feel good. Whether you need that extra layer of compliance or not, you can rest assured knowing that the information and content going out is researched, backed, and it gives you the opportunity, as Jason said, to sort of stand up and stand out to your own discretion. So you can take the information and run with it in whichever way you so choose. Smart Chiropractor Show. This is our strategic marketing segment where we get tactical. And I recorded a podcast earlier today, and it was a topic that I thought would be great to bring to our program as well. And this is if you have a cash practice or you provide cash services. What are some tips? How can you get out there? And what are some marketing strategies that you can utilize that I've found success with, that I've heard others find success with? I think it's just a great conversation to open up. And the number one thing I'm going to encourage for cash practices out there, and I'll use the cash practice and exchange that for cash services as well, because these tips and strategies apply whether your entire practice is cash-based or whether you have products or individual services, whether that's services such as spinal decompression, products such as Everybody Everyday supplements from Basis Health, whatever they might be. If you have any bit of your practice that is not insurance-based, it's important to know how you can market and describe those products and services. And the number one thing that I would like to discuss and bring out today is just around price transparency. And this specifically applies when you're building relationships with other healthcare providers, but I think it really goes to all people as well. Most other providers have no idea what we do in our practice, never mind how much we charge for it. And when they live in the world of $80,000 20-minute surgeries and $200 aspirins, their concept of price is so whacked out and disproportionate to reality that who's to blame them for not having any concept of what we would charge? And nobody wants to be embarrassed when they make a referral. So my tip here, if you have a cash-based practice, you're reaching out to other healthcare providers in your community, is not that you need to bring a sheet describing every nuanced detail, but you can reduce friction dramatically by helping people understand, hey, we're an out-of-network provider. Our examinations and evaluations are typically around X, and our follow-ups are usually around Y. They're not going to hold you to the specific price, but if your initial examinations are $200, $250, and your follow-ups are $100, $150, whatever they might be for you, now that sets the framework that it's not $5,000. Now that sets the framework that it's not $50,000. And being able to really break down those walls and that friction is critically important, specifically if you have a cash-based practice or cash services and you're trying to build referral relationships with other people in your community. So for cash services, price transparency with the providers you expect to get referrals in from, super important. Just set the framework. Nobody's going to hold you to the dollar amount. But again, with their distorted image of pricing, that might apply to you unless you smash that belief. So I'm a huge fan of price transparency. The other thing that I would say, regardless of whether it is a product, a service, or your entire practice that's cash-based, leaning into people in your community that have networks is great. You know, Jason has discussed at length using Friday favorites as an opportunity to highlight other people, places, and things in your community. I'm going to flip that a little bit and give a very specific example, which is there are people in your community that also have large networks that you can tap into. Now, highlighting them on your Friday favorites is a great idea, but here's where I'm going tactically with this. many advanced imaging people, reps, marketing reps, are going to be in your office, hoping to get your business for MRIs, CT, whenever those referrals need to be made. And I don't care whether you make one of those referrals per year or one of those referrals per hour. It's a good idea to know an imaging facility that you can lean on and rely on in your community. We all do, and we all know these individuals. The question is, have you asked them for introductions to other providers in your community? Now, I am a big fan of being super direct with this, meaning I like asking the imaging rep directly, hey, we're looking to build relationships and we're looking to build this part of our practice. Insert cash service here. Do you have 3 to 4 introductions that you can make for me to other healthcare providers that you think might resonate with this? Asking that question directly is a fantastic way to build relationships at a faster rate, and also being able to showcase some of those cash services that you might not showcase in the same way as you do some of your core services. So I might be getting a little complex with this right now. So let me take a step back and simplify it. Step number 1, cash-based services, cash-based practice, price transparency when building relationships is critical. Just anchor those prices so that you can reduce friction. Second, use the people in your community, positively use their networks, because that's what they trade on. That's their capital, is relationships. These imaging reps are driving around all day meeting people. They know who does what and who is going to resonate with what. That is their job to know that. So don't hesitate to lean in and to ask them, especially if you are highlighting something new in your practice. So Jason, I'm pulling this one a little out of left field here today with some cash-based tips, but I've got more questions about this as the years have gone on, and I think it's just an important conversation to start. And the final piece before I kick it over to you for your thoughts were, don't be scared. 15, 20 years ago, going to the medical community, quote unquote, at large, they would look at you sideways because they were so ingrained. Now, they have gotten so crunched. There is not the most conservative healthcare providers known to man are adding on cash services wherever they can to help maintain their margins. So the opportunities are much wider than they ever have been before. People are much more used to it. We see companies, Jason, I remember the first time I saw Forward, the primary care company, that's $150 a month, probably depends upon where you live, $150 a month membership to primary care services. They just came into Tampa. They're expanding all over the place. Cash-based membership services are where healthcare is moving to, and you as a chiropractor don't need to be afraid of it, but you need to take some action steps to ensure that you get the best adoption possible and that you are able to build and grow as quickly and as stably as possible. And hopefully those tips helped you along that path. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I think those are great tips. I think, the price one is a really important one. We live in our own bubble. The medical world lives in their own bubble. And I know on the very few times that I've had to have an experience with a medical professional and they made a recommendation, you nailed it. The first thing I ask is, how much is that going to cost? And ironically, I think just about every single time I've asked that question, they have not had an answer. And I find that baffling because personally as a client, I'm like, how could you possibly recommend something that you have no idea how much it costs? I'm not asking for the best price. Where should I go? I'm asking for a general range, exactly like you just described. So sharing this information is, I think, a very valuable thing for doctors to then not only make the recommendation, but to have the knowledge when people ask, because I'm not the only one that asks. When people ask, I go, oh, it's very affordable and here's a great solution. And many doctors actually try to anticipate that question. And that's why they give so many free samples. They think they're helping. Maybe they are. I don't know. But they know that people are price sensitive at some level. They just have no control of the pharmacy that they send them to. So another story for another time. Great suggestions, great ideas. And I think you're 100% right. This whole sort of cross network, you tell my people, I'll share mine with yours, and so on. The one thing I'll just make sure people are listening for is that when somebody does recommend you, somebody's likely going to go to a social network and look you up. And they're going to see, do you have a Facebook page? Do you have an Instagram account? Let me just get a sense for what does this person put out into the social networks, today's reality. How are you presenting yourself? What are you sharing? What are you showing? And how important is it for you to generously start giving out, sharing, teaching your unique perspectives? And if you're active and you've got good quality, good looking stuff that is research based, beautifully designed, there's a really good chance somebody's going to actually be impressed when they find you. More often than not, they go to some of our chiropractors that we knew before they were clients. Go to your Facebook page, go to your Instagram account. It's a ghost town. There's no activity whatsoever. That says something about you. What generation is this doctor living in? 2, if it's what a lot of chiropractors do, which is, well, I got a few minutes. Why don't I stack up the month and post 20 things right now, and then I'm good for the month? That shows that you're not really relevant and paying attention to how these technologies work. But when you've got good quality, consistent information that looks good, research-based, and has some intention to it, has almost a curriculum, if I dare say, shows and demonstrates that you're a doctor who cares, that you are doing it for all the right reasons, and those reasons are to generously share what you know with people who will benefit from your information for free. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. That's what doctors who care do. So those are just a couple other tips. I think right on. Build relationships is the name of the game. People go where they are referred because most people are not looking for the cheapest deal on doctors they can find. It's just not how people think about doctors. Deal shoppers think about things that way, but not good, high quality patients in most cases, most of the time. So great topic, Jeff. Thanks for bringing it up. Great points. And follow these tips, docs.
That is it. Thank you, Jason. We are going to head over to our business principles, our final segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Business principles on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. We are going to finish strong, and we're going to talk all about monthly recurring revenue. Why is monthly recurring revenue so important? You've heard us discuss how to apply this. You've heard us maybe tease into the payday practice that we're going to be releasing very soon. But today, I wanted to take a moment and address this specific question. Why is monthly recurring revenue so important? And Jason, I'm going to kick it over to you, and I'm going to give you a warning. We're on the clock. We got the 10-minute countdown on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. But let docs out there understand why recurring revenue, and specifically monthly recurring revenue, is so important for their practice.
Wow, such a great question. Only 10 minutes. I could go on for hours. I won't, but I could. And at some point in the future, I will, and you may want to join us for that. But for right now, the whole key to monthly recurring revenue is to eliminate your financial stress. Let me say that again. Eliminate, kill, remove, delete, get rid of your monthly financial stress. Why? Well, most chiropractors have a monthly overhead of some kind, obviously. You've got rent, you've got staff, you've got insurances, you've got all utilities and other lease payments and things that it takes just to keep the doors open. And when you are, especially are starting practice, but even when you're in practice regularly, it's not uncommon that your expenses rise to your income. And as your income goes up, your expenses go up. And that game oftentimes leads chiropractors to a very, I'll say, difficult choice, a difficult place to go to, which is, am I a chiropractor with something to offer people that wants to generously share it and serve as many people as I possibly can the way I've learned it, know it, am trained to do it, and love to do it? Or am I a business that's main responsibility is to pay its bills and profit? And do I adapt what I do to profit, to attract new clients, and do whatever is necessary to make it as easy as possible so I have to work as little as I can within that realm? It's a mindset, and you have to ask yourself at some point in time. And I say that because many chiropractors start with a dream and end up with a business. And that doesn't mean you don't have a business when you have a dream, but when you have a dream, you are doing it the way you've always dreamed of. That's the point, and why we're defining it as dream. But too many chiropractors, and now they're even saying most chiropractors, become victims to this idea that, well, they never taught me anything about business, so I don't know anything about business. So the reality is I've got to make money, I've got to profit, I got to pay all these expenses, I got to pay all these bills. So I will resign myself to the fact that I'll do it the profitable way at the cost of your dream, at the cost of your joy, at the cost of doing what you love to do the way you love to do it with the people you love to do it with. I hope that's making some sense. Let's tie it together. Monthly recurring revenue is the solution to be able to cover your monthly recurring expenses that by definition are recurring. So let me teach you everything you need to know about business real quick. Write this down. I hope you're ready. Every dollar you make above your expenses is called profit. Let me say that again. Every dollar you make above your expenses is profit. So here's the magic question. This is the dream practice question that may change your life forever. What if you were able to generate enough monthly recurring revenue to cover 10%, 20%, 50%, maybe even at some point 100% of your monthly recurring expenses? What would that do to your stress level? What would that do to your freedom if you knew some, maybe all, your monthly recurring expenses were covered every single month by generating monthly recurring revenue? That's the new frame of understanding how to run a business. Repeat after me. Every dollar I make above my expenses is profit. So if you can cover your monthly recurring expenses with monthly recurring revenue, then everything that happens above your expenses is yours to keep. And that's the way you are able to have a dream practice while also profiting, generating revenue. We're going to teach a lot more about this as time goes on. As you know, I have a very short period of time today to be able to open up the conversation, but the goal is to get you curious, to get you start thinking by asking new questions. How much do I have to make every month? What would be the least amount of money that I could earn every month that would actually get rid of some, if not all, of my monthly financial stress? And what would my practice be like if I could practice free from financial stress? Those are the questions we'll be asking in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. Hopefully you start asking them now. And if you're curious to learn more about that, you're going to want to stay tuned for our ongoing conversations about monthly recurring revenue through the payday practice, using the Smart Care stores, offering Basis Health supplements, and understanding how to get rid of your monthly financial stress so you can have the practice of your dreams. Jeff?
Very well said, Jason. And you came in on time. As I say, in the radio business, we were up against it. And what a great show. Docs, if you are just listening and tuning in right now, be sure to rewind, check out everything we talked about today, and enable those notifications if you're on social for next week's show. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. We have a stacked lineup of YouTube videos coming out. I think we are months deep scheduling things out. So please connect with us there. Stay tuned. Stay engaged. Let us know how we can help you. And if you would like to discover more about how we help hundreds of chiropractors throughout the world right now get their message out to their communities by teaching and inviting consistently, you can head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. That is thesmartchiropractor.com. Docs, we look forward to seeing you next week for another Smart Chiropractor show. Jason, fantastic job on behalf of yourself, on behalf of myself and our entire team. Docs, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another Smart Chiropractor show. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.